streaming tonight's meeting. My name's Alan Getley and I'm the Mayor of the Buloke Shire Council and the Chairperson of tonight's meeting. It's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's council meeting. We acknowledge the traditional owners on the land on which we are meeting, and we pay our respects to the elders and to the elders of other communities who may be here today. This council meeting has been recorded and web streamed live to the council's YouTube site. This recording will be also available on video on demand. Attendees are advised they will be recorded during the meeting. A reminder that councillors, we act in accordance with the Councillor Model Code of Conduct and will support the principles of leadership, good governance, and that secures public confidence in the office of councillors. I'd like to introduce the other councillors in attendance tonight. Councillor Stephen Barrett, Lower Avoca Ward, Councillor Charmaine Delaney, Mount Jeffcott Ward, Councillor Bernadette Hogan, Mallee Ward, and Councillor Graham Mill, Mount Jeffcott Ward. I'd also like to introduce Mr Daniel McLaughlin, Interim CEO Officer, Interim Chief Executive Officer, and the Executive Management Team, Gaynor Atkins, Director of Community Development, Georgia Brown, Senior Executive Assistants, and Salome Menendez, Manager of Finance Strategy.
Don't forget Paula.
And Paula Gardner. Sorry, I was just about to go to apologies. I have one apology this evening from Jenna Allen, Director of Corporate and Organisational Performance. Councillors and officers, are there any conflicts of interest to declare?
No.
No, Mr Mayor.
No.
Thank you. Item 4, questions from the public. Councillors received one question for this afternoon's meeting. I will ask the Chief Executive Officer to name the person who has submitted the question and the text of the question. I will then ask the Chief Executive Officer to provide the answer to the question. Mr CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the question is from Darryl Warren of Donald. Between October 2021 and October 2024, the state government announced 3 rounds of funding to develop land or construct cabins/accommodation to address the housing crisis in the Buloke Shire. Mr Warren then summarises October 2021, $300,000 allocated to subdivide the former Sea Lake Primary School. April 2022, $2.3 million allocated for 14 cabins. October 2024, $1.9 million allocated for an additional 14 cabins. This totals $4.6 million for the delivery of 28 cabin units and 8 housing blocks across the Shire aimed at alleviating the housing crisis in the Shire. In light of the ongoing housing crisis in the Shire, can the Council provide a detailed update on the status of these projects, including 1, project progress, how many cabins or blocks of land have been completed, are under construction or remain in planning? 2, location breakdown, where are these cabins being built and how were the sites selected? 3, timeline to completion. When is full delivery of all 28 cabins and land subdivision expected? 4, budget allocation. How has the $4.6 million been spent or committed to date? Are there any cost overruns or savings? Given the level of discussion about housing, not only in the Shire, but across Australia as a whole, it would be good to see how the Buloke Shire is actioning this matter at present. I'll now, through you, Mr Mayor, read the answer.
Thank you.
In the interest of accuracy of information and full transparency, the premise of Mr Warren's 4 questions need to be clarified. In October 2021, the Council was funded $300,000 by the state government to subdivide the former Sea Lake Primary School into, as per the grant application, approximately 8 sites. Council contributed a further $111,250, resulting in a total project budget of $411,250. In April 2022, $2.34 million was allocated for cabins, including a council contribution of $600,000. which was for the installation of 2 cabins at each of the 7 locations. As I'll outline further in the response to Mr. Warren's 4th question of the funding agreement was varied to an agreed 7 cabins, being 1 2-bedroom accessible cabin at each location. In October 2024, $1,929,194 was allocated for a minimum 7 cabins, or as the application also read, 14 bedrooms, including a council co-contribution of $300,000. The total budget for all 3 projects was therefore $4,680,444 for the delivery of 14 cabins and approximately 8 housing blocks across the Shire. For consistency, where Mr. Warren refers to 28 cabins, I will refer to 14 cabins. Question 1, project progress. How many cabins or blocks of land have been completed, are under construction or remain in planning? Response: 9 lots have been created from the subdivision of the former Sea Lake School site. Council is awaiting final sign-off from the planning process to enable the land titles to be released. 7 cabins have been delivered to 7 different sites across the Shire. 6 cabins have been completed. 1 cabin is awaiting sign-off. 2 cabins are currently being utilised. The others require management arrangements to be finalised prior to use. And a further 10 cabins have commenced manufacture. Question 2, location breakdown. Where are these cabins being built and how are the sites selected? The selected cabin sites are council and community managed caravan park and camping grounds that previously lacked the infrastructure to support unregisterable movable dwellings under Victorian law. These sites have now been upgraded to meet the necessary standards, enabling both current and future cabin installations. The sites and number of cabins in place and proposed are as follows. Charlton Caravan Park, 1 by 2 bedroom accessible cabin in place, 2 by 1 bedroom cabins proposed, total provision of 3 cabins. Sea Lake Caravan Park, 1 by 2 bedroom accessible cabin in place, 2 by 1 bedroom cabins proposed, total provision of 3 cabins. Witchy-proof Caravan Park, 1 by 2 bedroom accessible cabin in place, 2 by 1 bedroom cabins proposed, total provision of 3 cabins. Green Lake, 1 by 2 bedroom accessible cabin in place, 1 by 1 bedroom cabin proposed, total provision of 2 cabins. Chum Lake, 1 by 2 bedroom accessible cabin in place, 1 by 1 bedroom cabin proposed, total provision of 2 cabins. Watcham Lake, 1 by 2 bedroom accessible cabin in place, 1 by 1 bedroom cabin proposed, total provision 2 cabins. Waranook Lake, 1 by 2 bedroom accessible cabin in place, 1 by 1 bedroom cabin proposed, total provision of 2 cabins. For further clarity, a total of 17 cabins will be installed. Question 3, timeline to completion. When is the full delivery of all originally 28, now 14 cabins? The original question proposed 28, it's actually 14 cabins. We know to be now 17 and land subdivision expected. Response: there are 3 different projects relating to the subdivision of land and provision of cabins. As a summary of each project is as follows. Subdivision of the former Sea Lake Primary School site. Works have been completed and pending sign-off from utility providers to enable titles to be issued for 9 subdivided lots at the site of the former Sea Lake School site. On receipt of titles, council can commence sale of those lots. Sale of the land is anticipated to commence by the end of the calendar year. All funding received from the state government has been expended. 2022 cabin funding. Works have been completed for 6 of the 7 cabins delivered under the funding. The remaining cabin is expected to be completed by the end of October. Cost increases observed during the procurement process showed council would be unable to deliver a total of 14 cabins. A variation of the project scope was submitted and approved by the state government to deliver 7 by 2 bedroom accessible cabins only. All funding received from the state government has been expended. The 2024 cabin funding was the Regional Worker Accommodation Fund project, which will deliver a net increase of 14 bedrooms at each of the 7 sites that received 1 cabin as per the previous project. This is being delivered in the format of 4 2-bedroom and 6 by 1 bedroom cabins. Construction of the cabins have been awarded and the project is expected to be completed by mid-2026. No cost savings from the project are expected at this time. Question 4, budget allocation. How has the 4.6 million been spent or committed to date? Are there any cost overruns or savings? Response. The subdivision of the former Sea Lake Primary. Funding amount was $300,000. Committed council co-contribution was $111,250. The final cost is forecast to be $509,984, meaning there has been an overspend on that project of $98,734. The overspend is attributed to higher than estimated costs of fill material required to level the site of $89,370 and NBN provisions required post upgrades in the Sea Lake during the delivery of an extra $35,381. The 2022 cabin funding, which was $2.34 million, including $600,000 co-contribution for a total. The final cost was $2,995,520, which means there will be a forecast overspend of $55,520. The overspend and project variation to decrease the cabins attributed to a higher than expected cabin cost of $1,295,959 and fire service installation of lake sites of $841,671. The 2024 cabin funding funding amount of $1,629,194. A council contribution of $300,000. The current committed spend is $1,307,570. The remaining budget is $621,624. The project is in progress. Full amount of remaining budget expected to be required to deliver the full scope of the project. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Item 5, general business. 5.1, management reports. The first report we have to consider is the community grants and sponsorship. Councillors, is there a motion for this report?
Is like to put a motion there, Mr. Mayor?
And the motion is, please, Mr. Councillor Barrett.
And the motion is to commit. Wait a minute, I'll just go back to it. The motion is approve the officer's recommendation for the following project under the Sustainable Grants Program: $10,000 to the Calder United Football Netball Hockey Club, the project to make the King of the Mountain Mount sustainable.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Is there a seconder, please? Councillor Hogan. Councillor Barrett, comment?
Mr. Mayor, as I read we asked for a bit more information, and the information seems to have come through to us, and it seems to make sense that they putting this funds towards the fencing, which would be a long-term use for that project. So I think therefore helping that be more sustainable in the long term.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Councillor Hogan.
This is an iconic event for the Witchy-Proof district, and I think it will go on for a few more years yet, we hope. So anything that helps the permanent infrastructure is a good thing. So happy to support.
Any other councillor wish to comment? Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. a classic example of the more information, the better here. And with the information provided, it's quite clear that the intentions are valid in the request for money to buy this fencing, and it cuts out the cost of hiring and driving and carting and provision of this type of equipment and other stuff for Witcher-Proof and that particular club that's applied for long time to come. The CO2 emissions that are reduced by that well and truly fit the sustainability guideline, and I'm happy to support it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Milne. Councillor Delaney, anything to add?
No, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
All right, I'll put that into the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
That's carried. Thank you. 5.2 financial reports. 5.22 financial reports and performance statement 2024-25. Councillors, do I have a motion for this item, please?
I would, but I can't see it.
Yeah, me either.
I can't share my double my screen up for some reason.
All right.
And that's not probably because of the computer, it's because of my computer skills.
You found Graham?
Okay.
No, I won't go out of here to find it.
And anybody?
Yeah, I'll put that motion forward, Mr. Mayor. I've got it on my screen.
Motion, please.
That the motion is that council approves in principle the draft financial statements and performance statement for the 2024-25 financial year ahead of the statements submission to the auditor. 2, authorise Mayor Councillor Getley and Councillor Milne to certify the final form of the financial statements and performance statements on behalf of and with the full authority of the council.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Is there a seconder for that motion, please?
No, I'm happy to second that.
Councillor Hogan. Councillor Barrett, any discussion?
No, Mr. Mayor, I think it's pretty well normal procedure for the mayor and the deputy mayor to take on this role. So I think that's just per normal standard rules. So yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Hogan.
No, happy to support the motion as is.
Any other councillor?
No, happy with that.
Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All those
Aye.
in favour?
Aye.
That's carried. Thank you. And that brings us to the conclusion of tonight's meeting. So I will declare the council meeting closed at 4:52 p.m. and I thank you all for your attendance.
Thank you.